Right now, millions of Americans are asking the same question. Will there be another stimulus check before Christmas? And more specifically, will it be the $2,000 payment that Trump has been talking about? Now, before you click away thinking this is just another speculation video, stick with me, because by the end of this documentary, I'm going to reveal the one economic indicator that actually determines whether these checks will ever happen again. And it's not what the politicians are telling you. It's December 2025, and across America, families are checking their bank accounts with the same sinking feeling. Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old pharmacy technician in Columbus, Ohio, checks her bank account balance on her phone during her lunch break. The number staring back at her, $847. Rent is due in 2 weeks, $1,250. Her son needs winter clothes. The car payment is coming up, and her credit card, the one she swore she'd pay off this year, just keeps growing. Sarah isn't irresponsible. She works 45 hours a week. She budgets, she skips the daily coffee. But somehow, it's never enough. And she's not alone. According to the Federal Reserve's 2025 survey of household economics, 37% of Americans would struggle to cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing money or selling something. That's not a fringe minority. That's more than 1 in 3 people. Let's rewind to understand how we got here. The $2,000 stimulus check became a political lightning rod back in December 2020. As COVID-19 devastated the economy, Congress passed a $600 direct payment. Trump immediately called it a disgrace and demanded $2,000 instead. I am asking Congress to amend this bill and increase the ridiculously low $600 to $2,000, he said. It created massive public support. People were genuinely struggling. Unemployment had spiked to 14.8% in April 2020. Businesses were closing permanently, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that 22 million jobs had vanished in just 2 months. The Democratic-controlled House passed a bill for $2,000 checks, but the Senate, then Republican-controlled, blocked it. Eventually, the Biden administration delivered $1,400 checks in March 2021, arguing that, combined with the $600, it equaled the $2,000, but for many Americans, that felt like a broken promise, and Trump never stopped talking about it. Fast forward to today, December 2025. Trump is preparing to take office again in January after winning the 2024 election, and the question on everyone's mind, will he finally deliver those $2,000 checks? If you think you know the answer, drop a comment below. I want to hear what you think will actually happen. Here's what most people don't understand about stimulus checks. They're not just about generosity. They're about economic mathematics. When the government sends out direct payments, they're essentially injecting cash directly into consumer spending. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that the 2021 stimulus payments had a multiplier effect of approximately 0.6 to 0.8, meaning every dollar sent out generated 60 to 80 cents of additional economic activity. But here's the catch. In 2020 and 2021, we were in a recession with high unemployment and low inflation. The economy had spare capacity. Today, the situation is fundamentally different. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the current unemployment rate at 3.8% near historic lows. Wages have grown, but so has everything else. The Consumer Price Index shows cumulative inflation of approximately 22% since January 2020. That means a $2,000 check today buys roughly what $1,640 bought in 2020. Let me give you a real example. Marcus Thompson, a construction worker in Phoenix, Arizona, made $52,000 in 2020. Today, he makes $61,000. Sounds like a raise, right? But his rent went from $1,100 to $1,550. His grocery bill jumped from $600 a month to $840. His car insurance increased by 35%. According to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the average American household now needs an additional $11,400 annually just to maintain the same standard of living they had in 2019. Marcus isn't getting ahead. He's barely staying in place. This is why people want another stimulus check. And if you're feeling this pressure too, hit that like button. It helps this message reach more people who need to understand what's really happening to their finances. So why hasn't Trump already committed to $2,000 checks? The answer involves something economists call fiscal space. The U.S. national debt currently stands at approximately $36 trillion. The Congressional Budget Office projects that annual deficits will average $2 trillion for the next decade, even without new spending programs. Sending $2,000 to every American adult would cost roughly $500 billion. That's not pocket change. That's larger than the entire annual budget of the Department of Defense. Treasury Secretary nominees have signaled concern about inflation. The Federal Reserve spent 3 years raising interest rates from near 0 to over 5% to combat the inflation that followed pandemic-era spending. Jerome Powell has made it clear, more massive stimulus without corresponding economic weakness would reignite inflation, and inflation is the cruelest tax of all. It hits the poorest Americans hardest. Here's the political reality. Trump wants to deliver something for his base, but he's also advised by people who understand that another round of unfunded stimulus could crash the bond market, spike interest rates further, and make mortgages even more unaffordable. The 30-year mortgage rate, which was 2.7% in 2021, now hovers around 7.2%. The median home price has increased from $329,000 to $417,000. For a typical buyer, that means monthly payments jumped from $1,100 to $2,780, 153% increase. Congress matters too. Even with Republican control, deficit hawks within the party have consistently opposed broad-based cash payments. The House Freedom Caucus has made it clear they'll demand spending cuts elsewhere. This isn't 2020, when both parties agreed emergency action was necessary. This is a fight over priorities in a divided government with competing economic theories. What do you think Congress should prioritize? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know where you stand on this. Let's get practical. If you're hoping for a $2,000 check by Christmas 2025, I have to be honest with you, it's not happening. Trump doesn't take office until January 20th, 2026. Any legislation would need to pass both chambers of Congress, get signed, and then the IRS would need weeks to process payments. The fastest any previous stimulus went out was 3 weeks after passage, but could something happen in early 2026? Here are the actual scenarios that economists and policy analysts are discussing. Rather than $2,000 for everyone, payments could be means-tested. For example, $1,500 for individuals earning under $75,000, phasing out at higher incomes. This would cost roughly $200 to $250 billion. Still expensive but more politically feasible. The Census Bureau's data shows that 60% of Americans earn under that threshold. Instead of direct checks, expanded tax credits that effectively give people more money over time. The expanded child tax credit that existed in 2021 reduced child poverty by 46%, according to Columbia University researchers. A similar approach could deliver equivalent value without the inflation risk of immediate cash. The most likely scenario, based on conversations with congressional aides and economic advisors, is that no broad-based stimulus happens at all. Instead, expect targeted programs, student loan adjustments, housing assistance, food stamp expansion, less dramatic, but more fiscally sustainable. The Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco, PUBLISHED, research showing that previous stimulus checks saved approximately 40% of families from falling into poverty during COVID, but they also contributed to the inflation that now makes those same families struggle. It's an impossible trade-off. And here's something crucial the media isn't telling you. Subscribe to this channel because we break down these economic contradictions that affect your daily life, the real analysis behind the headlines. Every economic decision has consequences that ripple outward like stones thrown into water. Let's talk about what another stimulus round would actually mean for your life, beyond just receiving a check. If $2,000 checks go out tomorrow, here's what happens. Retailers see a surge in spending, great for their quarterly earnings, but manufacturers can't increase production overnight. Supply stays constant while demand spikes. Prices rise. The Bureau of Economic Analysis has models showing that a $500 billion injection would likely add 1.5 to 2.5 percentage points to inflation over the following year. What does that mean in English? The groceries that cost you $200 this week would cost $203 to $205 next week. Your rent increase, already scheduled for 3%, becomes 4.5 to 5.5%. Your used car, if you're trying to sell it, might gain value temporarily, but the replacement vehicle costs even more. According to Kelley Blue Book data, the average used car price jumped from $20,400 in 2019 to $31,800 today. Another stimulus without increased production capacity would push that higher. Medical costs would accelerate. The Kaiser Family Foundation reports that employer health insurance premiums have risen 47% since 2011. Healthcare spending represents 17.3% of GDP, the highest in the developed world. Another inflation spike makes those premiums even less affordable. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes giving people money immediately actually hurts them long-term if it triggers economic instability. This isn't an argument against helping struggling families. It's reality. The Congressional Research Service has documented that inflation disproportionately harms the exact people stimulus checks are meant to help: those with no assets, no stocks, no hedge against rising prices. So if a stimulus check isn't coming, what should you do? Let me give you the same advice financial advisors are giving their clients. Right now, this applies whether you make $30,000 or $300,000. First, understand that macro policy isn't changing your situation tomorrow. The Federal Reserve will continue managing inflation. Congress will continue debating. Your bills still come due, so focus on what you control. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau recommends that Americans build an emergency fund equal to 3 months of expenses. I know that sounds impossible if you're living paycheck to paycheck, but even $25 a week becomes $1,300 in a year. Second, aggressively pay down high-interest debt. Credit card rates now average 21.5% according to the Federal Reserve. That means a $5,000 balance costs you $1,075 per year just in interest. Any extra money tax refunds, bonuses, side income should attack that debt first. Third, invest in skills that increase your earning power. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects that jobs requiring post-secondary education will grow 13% by 2030, while those requiring just high school education will grow only 4%. Community colleges, online certificates, apprenticeships, these aren't luxuries, they're economic necessities. And finally, understand your local resources. The Department of Health and Human Services funds programs in every state for food assistance, energy bills, childcare costs, and healthcare. Many Americans who qualify don't apply because they don't know these programs exist. Comment below if you want me to make a detailed video about which programs you might qualify for. Let me know your state and I'll cover it. Let me bring this back to Sarah, the pharmacy technician we met at the beginning. She's not waiting for a stimulus check. She picked up weekend shifts. She negotiated a small raise. She moved to a slightly cheaper apartment. She applied for state assistance with her son's healthcare. Is it fair that she has to work this hard just to stay afloat? Absolutely not. The system is broken in fundamental ways that require massive structural reform. But here's the key insight I promised you at the start. The one thing that actually determines if stimulus checks return. The unemployment rate? That's it. That's the secret. When unemployment spiked to 14.8% in 2020, stimulus checks had bipartisan support within days. If unemployment remains below 5%, don't expect broad cash payments regardless of who's in power. The political will only materializes when job losses become undeniable. This is why economists watch jobless claims every week like hawks. The moment the labor market cracks mass layoffs, claims above 300,000 weekly, unemployment trending toward 6%, that's when the stimulus conversation becomes real again. Until then, it's just political theater. Trump might deliver some form of relief. It might even be called a stimulus, but $2,000 checks for everyone. Only if the economy deteriorates significantly. And honestly, if that happens, we'll have much bigger problems than waiting for a check. The hard truth is that America's economic challenges run deeper than any one-time payment can solve. Stagnant wages, unaffordable housing, healthcare costs, education debt, these require systemic solutions, not band-aids. According to the Economic Policy Institute, if wages had kept pace with productivity since 1979, the median worker would earn $61,000 instead of $40,000. That $21,000 gap is the real crisis. So should you count on a stimulus check this Christmas? No. Should you plan your finances around one in 2026? No. Should you stay informed about policy changes that affect your economic security? Absolutely. Yes, which is why subscribing to channels that break down these issues matters. The check you're waiting for might never come, but understanding the forces shaping your financial reality, that's the real stimulus. That's the knowledge that helps you make better decisions, demand better policies, and build actual security rather than waiting for rescue. If this video changed how you think about stimulus checks and economic policy, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs this reality check, and drop a comment telling me, what economic issue should I investigate next? Your voice matters. Your financial security matters. And understanding the real game being played with your livelihood, that matters most of all. Thanks for watching. Now go take control of what you actually can control. The government isn't coming to save you, but you can save yourself.